Hello, kangaroos. I wanted to share another book with you. Obviously, we're going into spring, but this one is The Coming of Winter in the Adirondack Mountains, which is a very special park for Miss Kelsey. My family has a cottage up there. It's in the state of New York, sort of way up north, and it's a very good habitat for all of these animals. You get a chance to see a lot more forest animals if you go up there and go hiking in the mountains. It's a great place to see them all. So, here's one of these books that shows us a little bit more about what it's like in the Adirondack Mountains. It's called The Coming of Winter in the Adirondacks, written by Brian J. Hines and illustrated by Maggie Henry. So, winter is on its way, and the high peaks are in celebration. It's the name of all the mountains. Hillsides and valleys look to be on fire as trees shimmer in the glow of autumn light. Green spires of hemlock and spruce poke their slender necks skyward as if to get a better view, for surely winter is coming. There is a snap to the air, a dull chill that snuck in as quiet as a breath. A smattering of clouds crawls over the northern horizon. The wind picks up and hisses through the swaying treetops. Branches quiver and leaves flutter like countless flags. An endless parade of clouds marches across the sky, climbing into a churning wall of gray. A vast shadow races over the ground as the sun is reduced to a sliver, then blotted out. And now the animals know winter is closing in. So in this page, you can see we've got our friend the squirrel. We've got a pretty red bird right here, and that's called a cardinal. Whenever you see a big red bird like that. They're not big, excuse me. They're smaller sized, but they're good forest birds. In the abandoned orchard, white-tailed deer feast on the last of fallen apples. The skins are rusty and soft, and the flesh as sweet and mushy as applesauce. The buck and the doe each raise their heads, then with tails thrown high, they bound for the low ground to the sheltering thickets where they may lie in wait. This is a buck. A buck is a male deer, which means boy deer, good job. And a doe is a female deer, or a girl deer. Major difference being the bucks have horns. They have antlers, rather. The does do not. Beaver squats atop his lodge, clamping a chewed stick between his teeth. A cold breeze lifts the nap of his fur, and his head slips right, then left. Beaver plunges into the pond with a smack. His tail slaps in a warning. Hurry, winter is almost here. Whenever you go kayaking or canoeing in the Adirondacks, you can often find beaver dams, and it's actually pretty cool to come across them. Beaver dips below the surface, and a moment later he shakes off the wetness, all safe in his lodge. As you can see, his dam goes all the way down under the water, and he gets to live in this hole, which is inside there and keeps him warm and safe. Even Black Bear is lumbering to her secret hideaway under a moss-draped log. She claws past a tangle of limbs, hunkers down in a bed of pine needles, and closes her eyes. She will sleep, for there is nothing to do but wait. And that is what we were talking about with hibernation. As she gets ready for winter, this black bear is going to take a very long nap when there's less food to be found. The wind rises in the forest like the sounds of rushing water, then fades again to a whisper. Chickadees make a mad flight for cover, weaving among the trees in the darkening woods to a cluster of hemlocks. They snuggle in the bowed branches and puff themselves up like little feather balls. Now, chickadees are one of Miss Kelsey's favorite kind of birds. And if you did the Audubon activity, you can actually find the chickadees on there. And they have a cool sound. They basically just say their name a lot. They say chickadee-dee-dee-dee. So you can kind of pick them out when you're out in the woods. Sometimes you can really hear them. Brook trout dart from under the rolling shadows of the Ausable River to deep and quiet pools tucked under stony ledges. There's all these fish. There's tons of fish. The Ausable River is one of the rivers in the Adirondacks, so I hope I'm saying that right. It's not near where I am, but I know there's lots of fish, and I used to spend a lot of time trying to catch guppies in my hands when you were in the shallows or in what we called the narrows, where 2 points of land got really close together. Then, at that magic moment, no longer day but not quite night, that fleeting instant between dark and light, the first flakes fall, and Old Man Winter is here. You can see we're starting to snow. One massive cloud curls over the Keene Valley like a clenched fist. A valley is the low point between the mountains. The grim sky drops onto the mountains. The rocky summits of Armstrong, Saddleback, and Gothics rake at the belly of the cloud, releasing whirling furies. The wind swells to a howling rage, and the sky unfolds in a furious shaking out of snow. And so I think it's really cool that they mention names of actual mountains that you can climb if you go to the Adirondacks. Miss Kelsey has not done any of those. Maybe Saddleback once? I can't remember. But I've done some other ones, and it's exciting. This is Bobcat, who stirs in his den. It is an uneasy sleep as the fierce music of the storm plays into the darkness. There's the snapping of twigs, there's the rattle of flying leaves, and there's the groan of a great tree and the sickening crack as it surrenders to the wind and the weight of all the snow. And there is that hour after hour whistle of Arctic air. So it's really cold in the Adirondacks. Sometimes Miss Kelsey's family cottage isn't even winterized, which means we can't go there in the winter because there's no heat. So these guys all just bunker down when it gets really cold. But dawn arrives to silence and stillness, and the sun seems to rise a bit more slowly to illuminate a transformed wilderness. It is a blindingly white landscape where the everyday shrubs and boulders have become strange, humpbacked forms of fantastic creatures in a snow sculptor's garden. Coyote is the first out, the first to witness the wonder. He licks up a mouthful of snow and then runs headlong in delight along the clearing, plowing the drifts with his muzzle. There's Coyote. I always love coyotes. They actually live in Chicago too, believe it or not. I know you guys, some of you guys have seen them recently. Like Ryan's family in particular, you guys had one really close to you. It's like, don't really want them interacting with us here, but they can live over there. Snowshoe Hare is an early riser too. He stands near a hickory stump and nibbles at sprigs of laurel. His white fur renders him all but invisible. You see him. He's right there. Little face. A good thing, for Hare knows Coyote is awake and about. Beneath the cold blanket, White-footed Mouse scratches out a tunnel along the ground and snatches up nuts and seeds like tiny treasures to be carried away to her burrow. And there's also, way up at the top there, you can even see him as kind of ermine or lemming hanging out, kind of like a weasel, kind of like Sam's ferrets. Guys, we finally see something that looks a lot like a ferret. There you go. A thin layer of ice gleams at the edges of John's Brook as wild turkeys glide through the open air and roost side by side, gobbling in strange conversation. You can see all the turkeys. Love turkeys. Cool. Upper limbs of the woodlands, shaken bare, reach like outstretched arms and splayed fingers into the sky as blue as a sea. Fronds and sumac and twisted vines of Virginia creeper fringe the forest edge, decorated in berries of red and blue. Blue jays crowd a stand of balsam and hop from branch to branch, sending down lumps of snow in soft little plops. Their shrill chatter fills the woods as if to announce the first snowfall. There's blue jays. Blue jays are pretty loud. Again, if you did the Audubon activity with the birds, you can find the blue jays and hear what they sound like. Otter and his family are out too, and it's time for play. They line up atop a steep riverbank. Father goes first. He belly flops over the edge and onto the slope. In mid-slide, he rolls onto his back and splashes into the water. His family sits back on its haunches and barks their approval. One after another, they glide, roll, and wriggle down the slick ramp and plunge into the icy water. There's the otters. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit of a glare on the book. I apologize. But you can see otters at the Shedd Aquarium for sure. I know they have some cute ones you can watch play sometimes. Red Fox is the last to rise. He bursts through the drift that blocks his den, dressed for the occasion in his splendid scarlet coat. For just a moment he soaks in the warm sunshine, but even he must celebrate by scampering in dizzy circles and snapping at the ground in a silly game of catch my shadow. Overhead in a flying V, Canada geese beat their wings and honk. The winter wren cheers from a treetop below. Got the fox friend over here, and then up here you've got all the geese in their V pattern. That's how they fly, with the lead goose there taking much of the wind, so the rest of them can kind of have a little less drag on them when they fly. And the wren is right here. You can look up all of those birds again with the Audible activity. And again, I'm saying Audible when I mean Audubon. Sorry about that. Wherever one looks, there is jubilation for the once-a-year arrival. Everywhere, everywhere, there is a celebration for the coming of Adirondack winter. There's some more foxes playing and some more birds. It's very peaceful and beautiful. One of the cool things about forest habitats is that they do go through all the seasons for the most part. You get, fall that turns into winter, that turns into spring, like where we are now, that turns into summer when the leaves are back on and everything's beautiful, and then goes back through the cycles constantly. The forest animals and forest habitats always deal, for the most part, with those seasons. So, hope you enjoyed that story. I've got one more about the Adirondacks that's like a shorter lullaby. It's actually a really cute book too. So I'll catch you next time.